What's the number one bad business habit that's going to destroy a client's trust? I have a lot of ideas around how to avoid this and how to make sure that you are continuing to build a beautiful, fulfilling, reputable business as a freelancer. My name is Sarah Turner. I'm a freelance medical copywriter and copywriting mentor, and I got to talk to you about this today because, quite frankly, freelancers don't have the best reputation. And this is largely because there are a lot of people who break into freelancing without any sort of business education or mindset work. And those two things are super important. And so, as a freelancer yourself, you're probably going to come across a client who's had a negative experience, which means you might need to prove yourself a little bit. Now, I don't mean bending over backwards or working with clients who are just incredibly negative and condescending, but it is true that sometimes you'll come across a client who's had a negative experience because, quite frankly, a lot of freelancers can be a little flaky. And so the number one bad business habit that will destroy a reputation for a freelancer is not following through. And you might be thinking, that is super obvious. Obviously, I will follow through. But I cannot tell you enough how many times I've seen freelancers, especially newbie freelancers, who show up with an employee mindset, who don't show up as a business owner, and therefore don't interact with their clients as professionally as they should. Sometimes it's self-sabotage, sometimes it's imposter syndrome, sometimes it's, quite frankly, life events. But it is so important for you to approach your freelance business as a business owner, meaning putting things in place so that you can follow through even when life events come up unexpectedly. So let's talk a little bit about that. What can you do to avoid this major pitfall as a freelancer? First things first, and this is something you might not have considered, you've got to be super clear about what you offer. Because sometimes the not following through is not setting clear expectations from the get-go. So what I mean by that is you don't need to have a fancy proposal, but you need to have a very clear outline as to when they can expect different pieces of deliverables. So that is the very first thing that you can do to lay a foundation of being a very trustworthy freelancer. The second thing I recommend is to follow up promptly. And now I don't mean respond to emails promptly, as in immediately, because quite frankly, there should be some time. Hopefully, you've got a lot of other work going on and you're setting an expectation. If you respond to emails immediately and then for some reason you can't, that client is going to wonder what's going on or think that you are slacking in the area of responding, when really it's just an expectation you need to start from the get-go, right? So what I mean by following up promptly is simply just having a rule in place. I like to respond to all emails within 24 hours. And it's a really nice guideline to kind of look at the clock on what something has been sent to me and then making sure that I give myself plenty of time to respond to that. And I do not respond to emails on the weekends, and sometimes it helps to set that expectation right when you start working with a new client. So it's interesting. These first two tips are actually about setting expectations, because sometimes when a client feels like you haven't followed through, it's because you haven't clearly defined the expectations of the working relationship to begin with. So don't overlook that. It's super, super important. The next tip I have for you is to deliver work on time. And now you might think this seems obvious, but if you can get into a rhythm or a schedule with your client where you are consistently delivering what they need without them having to check in on you, that is going to make working with you an absolute dream come true. It is one of the most common pieces of positive feedback that I get from my clients, is the fact that we barely need any communication to work together and to continue moving down the path that we've set at either the beginning of the month or the beginning of the year for the goals for their marketing. So when you can just deliver consistently without having to check in, it is so much more seamless and it makes working with you just an absolute dream. The next tip I have for you is to have a contingency plan in place. And the thing is this might be something that your client is completely unaware of. What I like to do is I have cultivated relationships with other copywriters. And if something comes up, if I want to go on vacation, if I get sick, I reach out to them and I ask them to take on some of my work. And this is a really easy way to have something in place so that your client is still receiving everything that they have signed up for in a really consistent and seamless fashion. So this is something that takes time. You can't start putting this plan in place when shit is going down. You've got to start before things are happening, before things go wrong. And let me tell you, it is so reassuring to know that you have a friend in entrepreneurship. This would even work for somebody who isn't a copywriter, right? Any form of freelancer. Having a relationship with somebody who's in your niche, in your industry, with a similar skill set, a similar style, a similar vibe, and becoming friends and getting to know each other and kind of having each other backs when something goes down is so relieving for you, and it makes you look incredibly professional for your clients. Finally, this is something that I have very strong opinions about. Sometimes you need to take a loss for integrity. I really believe that our reputations are so important as freelancers because that is where you get referrals. That is where you become an expert in your industry and people go on to recommend you. And it is seriously one of the best ways that you can quickly earn leads without always having to do client outreach. Truly. But you've got to maintain that reputation. So there have been situations throughout my career, because I'm human, where I have made a mistake or submitted something that was subpar, or just anything that could potentially come up. And it is so important to quickly own those mistakes. And if it means refunding someone, or if it means redoing a project, even though it's going to take you more time and cut into like whatever other work you're doing, it is so worth it for maintaining the reputation that you have worked so hard to build as a freelancer. I will say these things happen far less frequently than you'd probably imagine if you are still in the new early stages of creating a freelance business. Try not to worry too much about problems that haven't become problems before they exist. We have such a tendency to overly worry about the future, and sometimes things work out better than we could have imagined. So I wanted to leave you with that last, caveat, because I also see newbie freelancers kind of come up with a whole list of worst case scenarios, and you can really make yourself crazy doing that. So this is not about bending over backwards, dropping all of your boundaries, working for free, or letting a client push you around. This is about finding that balance, maintaining integrity, and growing your reputation so you can have an incredibly fulfilling freelance career for years to come. It is so worth it, trust me. And here is a bonus perk of doing everything I've mentioned in this video. When you are building trust with your clients, you're also building trust within yourself. I've seen so many newbie copywriters get nervous about whether or not they believe they could actually deliver on what it is that they are proposing to their clients. I have been there myself. It is really scary, but it is the fastest way to grow. So every time you push through that fear, every time you show up and you deliver something that is quality and of value, you are growing trust within yourself as an entrepreneur. And with that comes increased confidence, increased paychecks, and overall just a better, more robust business. So remember, confidence is a muscle. It's something that you can stretch and you can strengthen over time. And it's all about just showing up for yourself, showing up for your clients. So you've got this. I really, truly believe in you. So just put one foot in front of the other. Thanks so much for joining me today. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe, and please feel free to leave a comment. I read all of them and I respond to all of them. Thanks, guys.